So in this video, we're gonna look at 4 different reasons why I settled on the G85 over the Panasonic G7. Now, the price difference as of now is the G85 with the kit lens is $800 on B&H, and then the G7 with the kit lens is $500. Now, we're gonna be delving in if that extra $300 is worth it to you and why. I have 4 different reasons why it's been worth it for me. Now, just like anything, I always go back to what my goals are for filmmaking and how my gear helps me accomplish those. So if you saw my previous video, you'll know that one of my goals is to do wedding films. So as you're watching this, just know that these reasons are truly dependent on what you're shooting and why. The first reason why the G85 was a better option for me was the long recording limits. From what I understand, the G7 has a 29-minute recording limit, whereas the G85 has an infinite recording limit as long as the battery doesn't run out and as long as the SD card doesn't fill up. So like I said, I'm gonna be shooting event videos, so that long recording limit is a deal breaker for me. But if you're making shorter videos and you don't really have a need for a long recording limit, this really doesn't apply to you. And also another reason is this is eventually going to be my second camera. I'm hopefully gonna be getting a G85 by the end of this year, so having a second angle that I can just set, record, and go is really valuable to me. Reason number 2 is weather sealing. So like I already said, I'm gonna be shooting events, so it would just not look very professional if I had to take my camera gear down if it just started drizzling. And I'm honestly more likely to bring the G85 anywhere. If I had the G7 and there was a chance of rain during the day, I probably wouldn't want to bring the G7 out with me, but the G85, that's not even a thought I have to worry about. I can just throw it in the car and bring it with me and get any shot that I may want to get. The third reason is 2 custom settings, and I believe the G7 has 1 custom setting. Having C1 set to 4K at 24 frames per second and having C2 set to 1080p at 60 frames per second is just so helpful when you're in a run and gun situation and you don't have to mess with all your settings. And it just takes a lot of human error off the table. So if you're messing with your resolution settings or frame rates or that kind of thing, you just don't have to think about it and you're not going to make a mistake there. It's always going to be set to 4K and then 1080p, and you're always going to get those shots that you need without having to worry about it. Lastly, number 4 is in-body image stabilization. This is probably the number 1 reason I got the G85 over the G7, because handheld shots, even in 24p, honestly look so good. And even when you use warp stabilizer on some jittery footage, you still get a tiny bit of motion blur in a camera that doesn't have in-body image stabilization. This takes out all of those little micro jitters that you might get in a camera without in-body image stabilization. And you also have the option to go with Panasonic's lenses that have optical image stabilization as well. So this enables you to have what Panasonic calls dual IS, which basically doubles your image stabilization. So you're gonna get ridiculously smooth footage. I personally don't have a lens that's dual IS compatible, but from what I've seen of sample footage on YouTube, it's pretty crazy what you can do with it. So when it's all said and done, is that extra $300 worth it to you? Now, one practical reason why that extra $300 is worth it is, like I said, the in-body image stabilization is so good that handheld is honestly good enough for most situations. So I personally don't own a gimbal or a Steadicam, so this actually delays me from having to get one for quite a while. So not necessarily needing an external stabilizer saves you probably $300 to $500 right off the bat. And not having to stabilize in post saves a ton of time from warp stabilizer, and you don't have to worry about those jittery motion blurs that you get on a camera without image stabilization. And also, like I said, I don't have to worry about fumbling around with my settings to figure out the best settings for a specific moment. I can just switch back and forth from C1 and C2, which is just significantly more professional than just fumbling around and figuring out settings and hold on. Okay, I'm ready. Not professional at all. So in my case, the G85 is a clear winner for me. And like I said at the beginning, you really need to consider what your goals are for what you want to shoot. So if you want to shoot weddings, this works so well for me, but if that's not something that you're going to be into, the G7 may work really well for you. But maybe you didn't even settle on the G7. Maybe you settled for a completely different brand. Maybe you settled for the Sony a6000 like I had and it's working great for you. I'd love to hear about what your experiences have been. Let me know what you settled on in the comments, and I'd love to see why you came to that conclusion. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next week.